The Game Chamber isn't just the premium board game and miniature store in London, Ontario, or a new but fastly growing YouTube channel. It's also home to an epic game room where people can battle the forces of evil, or good for that matter, on one of 16 fully kitted out gaming tables. I got the owner and my boss, Tim, to give us a tour and to show off some of his favourite terrain.
This first project was something that I wanted to do. Customers didn't really ask for it. I don't know if they really use it, but I really needed to get this out of my creative flow so I could start working on another project. But I have really wanted to do a good scale river for a long time. I've done lots of small rivers, about 1 inch, 2 inches. That looks like you can just hop over it. It plays really well on the table, but in real life, we could literally just hop over it. So it's not very realistic, whereas this would be a river that would be an obstacle that you would have to traverse somehow. We made it modular. Almost everything I do is off of hardboard or MDF, just from your regular Home Depot type stores. Again, the banks, I love my featherweight spackle, or sprackle, depending on how you want to pronounce it.
Spackle, don't be
A little bit of stuff to build things up. This is pumice stone, which has taken a little bit of a beating because it's white, because we've gone and painted it. It has a cool look to it. It was kind of a test to see if it stand up in a project and to the daily abuse. Yeah, heavily used, right? So, which is why I don't use styrofoam a lot. I want this to be tough. I wanted an inlet. I wanted a dock. I wanted a boat dock. I wanted, kind of a sewer outlet. I wanted a bridge. I also made the bridge 2 pieces so that we could rearrange it, have 2 ruined bridges. So it just kind of goes right together. And then these pieces here, some of the pieces on the boat dock and then the sewer entrance along here as well are from Hearst Arts, which is a company that makes molds. You can cast with dental plaster or resin, works good. This was the dental plaster to try and make it a little bit more hardy. It's basically what they cast your dentures out of. It's just really hard. It might be called dye stone. You'll see it called hydrocal. In the hobby industry, they call it Merlin's magic, but it's basically just...
Why do they do that? Why does everything have to be like...
I know.
You can't buy green paint, you have to buy ogre toe.
Exactly. In theory, it'll hold up better. Although you can see it still gets chipped. It just doesn't... It loses paint, but it doesn't lose mass, whereas if it was plaster, there would be chunks flying off of it everywhere. So, and you can see some of my older pieces around that were plaster and that are missing pieces and stuff, because when I made some of my old stuff, I made it for home. I didn't make it for the store. So I still brought it in, and I just let it live its life, and it's moved onwards now.
This is the farm that it's gone to.
Yeah, that's right. So these trees were made by a customer, and they're just my favorite trees. They're so hardy. They're made of kitchen scrubby, or what would you call it?
Like a scourer?
Like a scouring pad.
Yeah. Brillo pad, I think they call it.
Brillo pad, yeah. So you would never do this with a tree that you would, right? They're like you can't break them. So they've held up very well. Some of the flocking can come off sometimes. We got. He's done some with sawdust, some with just dry brush. Way over here, he's done some foam, but they're all the same method. They're twisted wire. I think he's used masking tape and just glue and sand for the bark texture.
And I suppose you can buy this stuff. It's green, right? It's like a very dark green.
Yeah, it starts green or like a blacky green like this. You can see some of the hot glue from some angles, depending on the methods he used. Some of them are sort of finished from below, some of them aren't. But they're just they stand up really well. There's been no other trees in the marketplace that have survived as long as these. So sturdy trees. This is just a collection of mostly 3D printed stuff or repurposed toys, in this case over here. Just used for Star Wars. We had these come from all different people. Some we've done, some we've had friends and customers print. So you got varying degrees of talent in the printing department.
You can tell me exactly who's most talented and all people.
For sure. So some we've had to add a few little things here and there. with the Tatooine desert type stuff. It almost looks like windswept to me, like in the eroded desert landscape kind of stuff. So I think it works just as well here. You wouldn't want shiny, perfect city buildings with this sort of texture, but in the desert, I think it works really well.
So I noticed these ones have very square bases. Is that a design of the game, or is it just?
Kind of just creative choices. You'll notice mine have rounded corners, are more organic shapes. Jason likes square corners. This is more his setup. So if I'm helping him with bases, I generally just give him what he wants. So this is the classic 40K terrain that everybody knows. Everybody's got it. To make it look that extra level, you can just do a few small things to it to really sell the effect or the fun. Sometimes we like to make pieces that are almost mirrored, but have a base that joins together. So you can have multiple ways to play. Really easy effect to pull off. You just got to lay it out ahead of time, draw where your cut's going to be. So I guess what I should explain with this terrain, it's very modular. It's done in sections. So you can kind of see this section here is a piece. And most of these are all just built out of pieces, and you can build them however you want. So you do have a lot of freedom with these kits. I don't know if they are still available or not. They've gone more into larger, still modular, but larger pieces. So this is large modular panels that we've decided on. This old stuff still works really well. Every once in a while, you'll get a fun factory defect. We can see that there, where clearly it's gotten stuck in the machine, but it just looks super cool.
Awesome. Cannonballs.
Yeah, it looks like it. So we just blocked out the windows in a couple of these pieces, just so you can hide those knights or whatever you're trying to hide. What I like to do is change the level of the terrain just to give it a different feel. So we've totally blocked in the main floor and raised the level of it up a level just to change. Same with this one here. Give it a nice place to hide your guys to shoot. Some of this is just found objects. So this is a heatsink up on top.
It's like a CPU heatsink.
Yeah, it's a big sucker. I saved that for the longest time until I found the perfect project. And then, like I was saying before, you got to tell a story with your terrain. So, there's some kind of cool stuff going on inside. The side of the building was blown out, and you can kind of stand there and shoot out of it. This one gets a lot of attention because I built in a pipe that's like dripping some kind of oil or goo. Sometimes you can just take your leftover bits and just fun little side projects. This is almost like a checkpoint, maybe. And this is just those same building pieces we've just made a little booth out of almost. We collect a lot of terrain. We rescue a lot of abandoned projects. So this was a bastion project that someone had started, and they wanted it short for whatever reason. They have glued multiple together. It's cool. We weren't really sure how to use it. And then, again, we needed a lot of large blocking terrain. There was a need for that in the tournaments. So we just decided to take, what someone had started and just put it on top of a rock outcropping, basically. So these are actually the molds you would mold rocks from in the train industry, like the hobby railroad industry. And they're molded from real rocks, so they have a good look to them. This was before I figured out the coloring in the putty, so you can see some chips on these where you can see white. This is basically just built up styrofoam with the rock surface glued around the outside, with the old bastion parts put on top, and then the featherweight spackle just to kind of blend it all together. This is just a storm raven that was ruined, so I took it to the bandsaw and cut it in half diagonally and crashed it into the ground. Again, featherweight spackle, and then just a little extra attention to the chipping on the paint job just to sell the destroyed look. So this is just some walls that have found objects. I really like the found object builds, obviously. I think it's coming across. We got all kinds of fun stuff in here. We got corrugated magic cards that I've ruined. Just put through the little corrugated paper machine to make sort of that steel fencing type stuff. We've got some like actual anchors for construction, popsicle sticks, extra train pieces, parts of model cars, barbed wire, masonite bases. just to make it modular. You can kind of you can do sort of a fenced-in area. You can make a wall. You do a couple different things. And then in a little bit, we're going to show some more where we took that even farther, made it a little more interesting with better paint jobs as well. So this stuff, to the car modeling enthusiast, you'll recognize all of the parts. But in the grim apocalypse, hopefully it's hidden a little bit by our paint jobs. If you look really closely, you'll see car hoods. You'll see, there's the rear of the car. We got a side here. We got more hood with some fenders.
How many? Is this just one model car different bits?
Maybe a little bit more than a whole car, but it's basically a whole car. You got some of the chassis. I don't. You can kind of see some of the profile right there. And then, we paid a little more attention to the paint job in these ones. We did some chipping effects with some liquid latex to just kind of do some rust and chipping on the old paint jobs. And the other thing I've started to do with these ones is kind of label them in a series. So if someone wants to do up a table, they can just look at the bottom and know, oh, there's actually 10 pieces. If I go find all 10 pieces, I can maybe build a more cohesive looking table. If I want to get a better shot of my models, kind of thing. So this one's another found toy object. I think this one came from Toys R Us. In Fallout, you see a lot of crashed buses with a lot of scary stuff going on. So that's kind of the inspiration for this one. We took just some of the road barriers. I'm not sure what they're called, the concrete barriers. Kind of made it look like it, was a crash scene. And then we had a lot of details with the newspapers, and there's some traffic cones, bricks and leaves just kind of scattered throughout. We did some blood spatter, at the driver's spot with some of the passenger areas, and I think it really sells the effect well. So the highway was basically the centerpiece of our Fallout train table that won the first place award from Modifius Fallout Wasteland Warfare Terrain contest they did.
The catchy title.
Yeah. This was a large undertaking, this project. So a lot of customers saw this probably for 6 months going on in the back of the old store before we moved. And had a lot of help from our employees on this as well. Came out really good. It's almost entirely just regular materials. Kind of the uprights are just 2x6s cut down. We just kind of picked sort of that highway Y shape concrete like you'd see. We sprayed them with some speckled spray paint. On top of that, we screwed a layer of half-inch MDF. When we did a split piece like this, we just used 2 panels, like 2 pieces, to split it. We tried to hide the edge whenever possible, just with some texture paint. On top of it is cork. Just from the dollar store. Cork really, really looks like asphalt when you paint it.
What's doing the rebar?
The rebar is actually a gardening screen. So it's kind of a nylon mesh where I've got road going through. I've actually cut the cork in 2 halves and then sandwiched it around the mesh to sort of sell that it's coming out of the asphalt sort of look. And a lot of time when people do rebar, they use wire. It's sharp and it pokes you. This is like almost indestructible. It's not going to cut you. I think it's going to hold up really well too. Some of the signage, we laser cut. We print off billboards, stuck them together. Some of the bases are from Shantytown house series that we did. Which we don't have out today, which we're going to show another time. We've got some of the rocks built up like in the 40K terrain. These are just from the rock molds. Bases are MDF again. We used sand on the bases. We used the alcohol and scenic cement method, which works relatively well. We had a few little hiccups with that, but it actually just helped us sell some more fun effects, so it worked out good. Very happy. Oh, and I didn't actually talk about the sides. The sides are actually baseboard. So we just cut up vinyl baseboard, just screwed it onto the sides. Everyone was like, what's with the screws? And it's the old trick where you point it out rather than you hide it, right? So we rusted them up, we drew attention to them, and in doing so, we basically hit it. Another favorite of mine that I've ever made. This was basically entirely scratch built with the help of some resin cast detail bits from a company from Poland. We basically purchased a whole set of everything that they had and then recast it because it was just for store use. We weren't selling it. We decided that we would just duplicate it for our own purposes because we went really big with this project. This is sort of a stylized look that maybe wouldn't be that realistic, but it sells the blown up sort of theme you get in Fallout. I kind of like the look of like exposed studs with obvious drywall falling down on the inside with the exterior kind of falling away as well. We've got a lot of posters and things around. So the stud walls is just a shape that I created in CorelDRAW. We laser cut on our Glowforge. I did it in one panel size. Basically the longest looking one is the full piece. I just duplicated that same piece a bunch of times and then I just cut that up. So none of these are a kit we've designed. It's just I basically produced a piece that I could use over and over again. Some sort of bottling sort of operation,
like a moonshine?
Selling some kind of some kind of bottles of something that's of course piped maybe from somewhere where you don't want to know where it comes from. We've got this would be the Dead Kennedys Club. We've got the Kennedy newspapers everywhere. They're obviously trying to collect the newspapers because for whatever reason this house is just full of newspaper machines. Don't know why, but that's the kind of fun stuff you find in Fallout, just little stories. We've got the Sunshine Girl, up in the washroom. Little things like that.
Thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this one. It's great to share the Game Chamber with the wider world. For lots more board game, miniatures, and tabletop wargaming goodness, make sure you subscribe for more here from the Game Chamber.